Today we're going to be talking about a very important topic in LEGO's history. We're going to be talking about the Great LEGO Change of 1978. Technically, a lot of the changes that we're going to see today were introduced over a couple of years, so a more accurate title for this video would be the Great LEGO Change of 1977 to 1980, but that's kind of a boring title for the video, so hopefully you don't mind this small inaccuracy. So, what actually happened in 1978? Well, the classic minifigure with movable arms and legs was introduced. The introduction of the minifigure was accompanied by many other important changes that eventually helped LEGO build a new identity for itself and become the juggernaut that it is today. If you look at the chapters for this video, you'll have an idea of what's to come, but before we dive into the various changes that happened in the late 70s, we'll need a quick history lesson to make sure we're all on the same page. So, LEGO started making plastic bricks in the late 40s and early 50s. At first, these were just boxes filled with bricks and other cool parts, but there were no real sets. The first real sets would come half a decade later in the form of the Town Plan series. These sets were small buildings that you could add to your city layout and play around with your little die-cast cars. Sadly, I only have one set from this line, which is this garage. And before any of you nerds points it out in the comments, this is a remake that was re-released a decade after the original, so it's actually from 1968 and not 1956. I also don't have any of the die-cast cars that go with these kind of sets, since they're really rare and expensive. So, sorry about that. After a couple of years of this series going on, the Town Plan sets were given some larger brothers and sisters. This is important for us because they are the first brick-built vehicles, and because these vehicles are at a larger scale than the die-cast cars. The die-cast cars were then replaced by smaller brick-built cars and trains, and this leads to the introduction of the Legoland team in the late 60s and early 70s. And now, every car and train was brick-built, and there were two main scales for these vehicles. The larger vehicles usually had some steering or some other cool features, while the smaller vehicles could be integrated into a city layout more easily. These two different scales stayed alive for a few more years until the introduction of Homemaker figures in 1974 and Legoland figures in 1975. And with that, we've reached the second chapter of the video. As I said at the beginning of the video, the standard minifig with movable arms and legs was introduced in 1978, and with it came a lot of important changes. These changes were implemented over a couple of years, which I like to call the transition period. And during these couple of years, many things changed, and so the rest of the video will be about these changes. The smallest one of these changes is a change of style for the boxes and instructions. Until this point, most LEGO sets had white boxes and white instructions with a simple design. But with the introduction of minifigures, LEGO decided to modernize their boxes and instructions to be more colorful and more original. Some sets, like the Yellow Castle, kept the old design, but most sets got new and improved instructions. My favorite ones are obviously those for Classic Space because, let's be honest here, they look awesome. While we're talking about Classic Space in the Yellow Castle, we should mention that the new minifigures originally came in three distinct teams: Town, Space, and Castle. This is significant because up to this point, LEGO had released very few sets that weren't specifically meant to be a part of a city. Indeed, the first 20 odd years of plastic LEGO were almost completely made up of cars, trucks, planes, trains, houses, and other buildings and vehicles. The odd space, western, or castle sets were rare exceptions, but in 1978 and 1979, that changed completely. The new minifigures didn't need to stay in the city center, they could go out in space or go back in time to visit some strange new worlds. The possibilities of LEGO were now endless. But these new LEGO teams couldn't exist without the help of some new specialized parts. And believe me when I say this, LEGO created a lot of new pieces for their new teams. For example, Castle got some shields, helmets, visors, and weapons. Space got some helmets, air tanks, wings, landing gear, raised base plates, antennas, torches, etc. And Town got some tools, hats, road plates, windscreens, seats, steering wheels, etc. And then there were also plenty of other parts that could be useful everywhere, like different kinds of slope bricks, hinges, doors, wheel covers, winches, and so on and so on. But the importance of these new parts, new LEGO teams, and new aesthetics for the boxes and instructions might seem a bit vague when I mention them in a vacuum. So in this chapter, I would like to demonstrate how each one of these elements contributes to the Great LEGO Change of 1978 by comparing two LEGO sets. The first set is 363 or 555 Hospital from 1975, and the other one is 6382 Fire Station from 1981. In other words, we have one set that was released before the Great LEGO Change, and we have one that was released after the Great LEGO Change. With these two sets, I will also highlight the differences in the scale and the play scenarios that can be created. So let's start by looking at the instructions for the two sets. Like I said earlier, the old instructions are pretty simple, but they do the job just fine. On the other hand, the new instructions remove the white outline to give us a bright blue background that nicely complements the red of the set. The set number is hidden in the upper left corner right above this yellow banner that says Legoland. And the image below is a vibrant scene where each character seems to be doing something. This guy over here is about to get inside his car, this guy on the right is holding a water cannon, this girl is saying hello to someone, and this last guy is just casually walking across the parking lot. We can also see an open window, an open door, and an open garage door. This cover feels like a screenshot from a brick film. It feels alive, it feels warm, and it just feels cozy. The old instructions are a bit different. You will no doubt notice the similar shape and color scheme of the building, but the minifigures have no face print, no arms, and no legs, so they feel a bit more detached from the scene. They just feel like statues in front of a building. So these instructions, even if they're quite good, feel a bit cold compared to the new ones. Now let's look at the actual sets. The main thing that stands out to me is the slightly different scale of the two buildings. At a glance, they might seem like they're about the same scale, but they really aren't. This different scale can be observed thanks to the front doors of each set. By placing the corresponding minifigures next to those doors, we can see that the old door is too small for the old minifigures, while the new door fits perfectly with the minifigures. Similarly, this car is just too small to fit with the old minifigures, but the new cars were made specifically for the new minifigures. And not only do the minifigures fit inside the car, they are actually driving the car with the steering wheel and they can get out by opening the doors. Or if that's not good enough, we humans can place the minifigures inside by opening this hatch. Now, if we turn both sets around, we'll see that the old set is completely closed off, which means the interior is inaccessible. But the new set has a dollhouse design, which means you can actually create play scenarios inside the building with the included minifigures. What I'm trying to say here is that the old set doesn't prioritize the inclusion of the minifigs. The minifigs are accessories that are separate from the building and the car. But the new set was designed specifically to play with the minifigs. They are a part of the set, not just an afterthought. This is important to us because it shows that LEGO changed how they design sets. They don't just want kids to build a set and play with it, they want kids to feel a deeper connection to the set and feel more engaged with it. Everything we've seen so far was introduced for this purpose. The new aesthetic, the new minifigures, the new parts and accessories, the new minifigure scale, the new teams, it's all to make their toys more engaging and more fun to play with. Fundamentally, that is the great LEGO change of 1978. This core change of values and priorities is fascinating for someone like me who has a lot of sets from the 70s and 80s, because there's really a big shift between these two decades that is basically unmatched. It really feels like LEGO reinvented itself over a couple of years, and it's just fascinating. There's no other word for it. And the craziest part is that there's still so much to talk about. Like, I haven't even mentioned Technic or Fabuland until now. No, seriously, Technic was introduced in 1977 and Fabuland in 1979. Both teams were a part of the Great LEGO Change of 1978, and I didn't even talk about them. I also didn't spend a lot of time talking about the transition period. And now that I'm thinking about it, maybe I should have spent more time explaining how each detail evolved to become what it is today. For example, we went from brick-built benches to actual chairs. We went from brick-built motorcycles to actual motorcycles. And we went from normal doors to proper garage doors. There's just so much to talk about. Clearly, the Great LEGO Change of 1978 was a big transition for LEGO, and I'm glad they went through it. I personally think they came out of this change with a stronger toy and a stronger brand overall. This was a positive change that needed to happen. Alright, before I let you leave, I just want to say that this video wouldn't have been possible without the help of Bricklink and my parents. Bricklink, even if it has some mistakes, is a good tool for research, and it is also a good tool to buy specific parts or sets. And my parents, well, they just have a lot of sets from the 70s and 80s, so it made it a lot easier to observe all these cool changes that happened at the time and make a video about them. Also, the hospital is my dad's first LEGO set, and both of my parents had the fire station, so that's pretty cool too. Anyways, I don't really have anything else to share with you, so that's gonna be it for today, and thanks for watching.